Good day, dear students. So I'm glad to see you, and I'm glad to present today the topic of our lecture. So we'll discuss green buildings. So green buildings, it's a popular direction of the design of buildings and structure nowadays, and most of designers, architects, engineers try to apply all constructional methods to create buildings with this concept: green buildings, eco buildings, and sustainable buildings, actually. So our lecture will consist of four main parts. So we'll be familiar with the definition green buildings. So we'll try to understand the importance of accepting green buildings methods and materials which should be used during design of green buildings, and the advantages and the disadvantages of the green buildings. Okay, let's start from the part number one. So what do you think on this picture? Is it a green building?
No.
Why do you think so?
Because green buildings need to interaction with nature.
So you mean that the building need to be near to the nature during design?
And it's made by nature materials.
It should apply natural materials. Okay, and what do you think about this building?
Actually, yes.
Actually, yes. Maybe just a picture.
Maybe because we have just some.
Maybe it's something like near to the nature. It seems like that architects and designers try to apply some constructional methods to create the green design, green building. Okay, so let's be familiar with the concept of green building. So what is it? Well known that green building, it suggests not the color of the building. Green building is more deeply designed in the building. When the many questions are taken into account during design, which help building to use less energy, to produce less wastes, and other many questions which will be discussed during this lecture. So first of all, is a building which can be actually constructed. Firstly, it can be renovated. So many old buildings which exist nowadays and used nowadays can be renovated by using this technology of like green buildings. So it means that the scale of using this concept is really big. So not only for new construction, just for reusing, refusing. So during repair works, this design method can be applied. So write the definition. So when we actually discuss what is the main properties of green buildings, we surely can say that green buildings help us to make our environment clear, so to reduce the number of the carbon emission, so carbon dioxide reduction also can be reduced. The building which are constructed by using this method actually produce less water. So how it can produce less water is also interesting question for discussion. Energy use. So green buildings or eco-friendly buildings, sustainable buildings should use less energy. So energy is one of the important one of the green buildings, and during the design, of course, we need to reduce it. And how we can do it? Actually, by right designing of buildings which will lose less energy of the building for heating, for air conditioning, for the lighting, for the watering, and so on. So, and also can produce its own energy by using, for example, solar panels and other methods which can produce the electricity. And wastes. So nowadays, environmental problems, there are a really huge number of wastes. So waste during the construction, during the operational time of buildings, and also after, for example, demolition of the building. So if there are some reasons. So green buildings, actually technology of the green building should reach all these parameters. And only after then, if all these parameters are done, so we can say that our building is designed with this concept. So there are several objectives during design which should be taken into account. So protecting of occupant health. So we are the people, we're inhabitants for the buildings, and actually if our health is very good, actually we sense in the building our cells very good, it means that building was constructed, was designed right. So how it can be done? Actually by right applying the methods of construction, by right applying the materials of by right design of HVAC, heat ventilation and air conditioning, and so on. So there are many concepts which need be, and problems which need to be solved before the buildings became energy efficiency. So it will not lose any energy and actually create the right climate inside the buildings. Next, improving employer productivity. So if the building was constructed not for living inside it, so but for purposes like administrative building, like offices, so when the where the people are working through the day. So actually, if there are a good climate inside the building, so for example, it's not hot in the summertime and not cold in the winter time, the good climate, the clean air, of course it will increase the productivity of the internal processes. Less using energy, water and other resources, more efficiency. So building really need a huge number of many type of resources. And so to reduce this number is the main task, not only during operation, during design of that building. So there are many steps which should be achieved and solve many problems, how we can achieve the goal to reduce the using energy resources. But if we step by step will solve these problems by accepting many new methods which are still nowadays are developed by the many scientists and designers from whole world. Actually, we need to take their experience, we need to take their knowledge and accept for our own design, for our own buildings. Next, reducing overall impact to the environment. So, during construction of the building produced a really huge number of negative products, like waste, like emissions, and the most popular of them is the carbon dioxide. So during creating the monolithic buildings from reinforcement concrete, during the concrete is hardened, so there are special chemical processes which are produce the carbon dioxide. And so by just right applying the construction methods, by the applied right construction materials, we can make our building more cleaner, not only for people which will live inside this building or work inside this building, but also for nearby area, for all our climate in actual city, and then if there will be many buildings such like green buildings, so it will also help our nature and the climate in the world to be more cleaner. Next, optimal environmental and economical performance. So, economical performance actually maybe in the initial time, so during design and the first of all construction, the cost will be higher. As you know, to apply the last methodics, so last type of materials, of course, it will be cost higher in the first period. But during the operational time, all expenses will be reduced because we'll save the all type of the energies, and maybe we'll produce our own energy and we'll sell it to other nearby buildings, maybe, why not, and so on. During applying that all construction methodics and concepts with the green buildings, during operational time, building will become an economical efficiency building. And so expenses, so cost for expense to, for example, for lighting, for electricity, for watering, for heating, for cooling, will be less. Sometimes for 2 times or 3 times less than in traditional buildings. Quality indoor space, satisfying and quality indoor space. It just means that quality of construction will be also higher. And the main questions, how we can design the green buildings. Actually, during design, you have the special type of knowledge of design green buildings, because without that knowledge, it will be difficult to create such sustainable buildings. So how you can gather that information, where you can take that knowledge? Of course, from your, first of all, your own experience, so your own research works. Try to find information about the last buildings which was constructed by using these methodics, green building methodics. And actually, important thing to through your life cycle, your period of study, so your work experience, try to understand how all buildings are work. Because to apply the right methodics for green buildings, first of all, you need to know about how just ordinary buildings are designed. So what types of mistakes are done during traditional buildings design. And so only after that, of course, you will be able to apply right methodics, to apply right materials, because you know the comparison between traditional buildings and sustainable buildings. You know the difference between non-economical efficiency building and economical efficiency building. Energy efficiency and non-energy efficiency. That's for all can be achieved only by research, by your own research, through your study, through your work experience. So when you will finish your study, actually you will have the special qualification, you will have the diploma, and you will do something according to your diploma diploma qualification. So in that way, you will try to understand what you need to do, in what scale you need to do, and how it will work. Maybe nowadays it's a difficult question to you, but from now you need to start green, like a green building. So start think like how you can apply all these parameters to create the green buildings. Actually, importance of green buildings. Importance. So first, important is that we need to maximize our natural resources. So during constructing, during design of the building, we spent many natural resources to create the buildings. And so to minimize them, actually we need to think in other way, to apply another methodics like it was many years ago, and just still nowadays we apply the old methodics which was found many years ago. So many years ago, I mean 20 to 50 years. So through this period, the old construction methodics, popular construction methodics was found. And only a few buildings in the world are used another way of design, another construction methodics, because they understand the problem, main problem of all the world. The climate is changed, the temperature is became more hotter, and we need to apply some measures to protect our nature, to protect our climate from the all negative effects. And so, like engineers, like designers, what we can do? Actually, we can just reduce the pollution of the existing buildings, not only for new constructed buildings which are just will be constructed. Actually, we need to think about buildings which are still in operational time nowadays, so they exist. Of course, it's very important, because the number of new buildings is more time less than existing buildings. And all of the existing buildings are non-energy efficient. They are not save any parameters of the energy. They just spend it, and spend in the huge scales. And so they need to be renovated. And so your task, like a future specialist, find the right way of designing the same buildings, so how you can renovate them. So what type of measures you can apply to help your building to use less energy, to produce less pollution, and so on. So it will be actually your goal for your future career. If you will find it, if you maybe you will find it, but the most difficult thing is to make it true. So to make your aim, to make your goal true. So how you can improve it? Actually, you need to find the investors who will help you to to achieve your goals. So start thinking now, and you need to finish it after you finish your base course of your study. Need for green buildings. So as you see, there are many reasons why nowadays, or maybe yesterday, we need the green buildings. Actually, firstly, it's environmental benefits. Maybe it's a big question, and each of us can say, so what can I do for environment? Maybe you can do it just by yourself, but if you will start from yourself, and each of us will start from itself, of course, together we can change something in the maybe one city, and then after one city we can change something in the whole country, and then in the world. So we need to start, yes, to protect the ecosystems. So the less number of forests, so and less number of oxygen actually says us that something needs to be changed. Improve air and water quality. You see how the number of pollution nowadays is higher. So we can breathe, we can find the places where the fresh air will be really clean, right? Right. So only just a few places, maybe in our cities, there are maybe no any fresh places, clean places where the air will be really fresh and clean. Because there are a huge number of pollution, huge number of gases, emissions, and so on, carbon dioxide production. So each day we need to breathe this air. So it's also one of the main points we should be solved. Firstly, water. So deficit of water in the world is bigger than in our country. There are many countries which have a really deficit of fresh water. And so this tendency will just grow up. So through the time, the deficit will be also sense very high. And so maybe we also will meet with this problem in our near future. So to not meet with this problem, actually we need to start and solve it today by accepting right methods during our design. Next, reduce wastes. Again, I repeat that reducing waste is a need to apply right methods of construction. So if we will directly turn to from the wet construction to the dry construction, it's one of the methods how we solve the problem of reducing the waste. Because dry method produce less wastes in comparison with the waste method. Next, restore natural resources. Again, so if we'll use right, maybe not right, if we'll use the materials which answers the question like eco-materials, it can help us to use to store the natural resources, because we will not use the new material. We need to use the recyclable materials. We need to use that materials which exist and standing nowadays. For example, we need to demolish all buildings, reuse that material and create new building, create new one. And so only in that way we can really conserve and store the natural resources, which are nowadays in the bad condition, because it's, we came to this stage when there are a really little short of natural resources. And if we will not decrease the volume of using natural resources near time, it will be really deficit of them. Economical benefits. Also, economical every time is an important thing. Maybe in the first place for customer and for owner of the building, that took the play economical efficiency of the building. So if you will apply the right method of construction, if you will apply the right type of materials, which will maybe in the initial time cost more, but during all operation time, all life cycle of the building will be less. Actually, it will decrease the overall cost of the building. So you need to think about it, and first of all, how you can do it, just make ordinary comparison between traditional type of materials with eco-materials, traditional type of buildings with energy efficiency buildings. And so you will find the answer on this question. How you can reduce the cost on the building? How you can reduce the cost of operation during operation of the building? Because they are not the same things. Next, improve occupant productivity, enhance asset value and profits, optimize life cycle, economic performance. Very interesting topic. So optimize life cycle, economical performance. Because our materials which we apply during design, they have the ordinary life cycle. And so if we'll use the energy efficiency materials, if we'll use the eco-materials, their life cycle is more than in traditional materials. And also there will be no reasons to repair some buildings, some structures during more than half of their life cycle, more than half. Sometimes maybe the accepting type of materials will be enough for all life cycle of the buildings. It's a really important thing, because for nowadays, now traditional materials which we use for just for finish, like finishing materials, for decorative purposes and so on, need to be repaired after 10 to 20 years of life cycle of the building. So it's not so good, because you need to spend additional cost, put additional expenses for the repair works, for the reconstruction works, for the rehabilitation just of the building. So that's why important to right applying of the materials. Social benefits, health and the comfort. All of us actually need and want to live in the comfort. Like each of you, during you are going to buy some flat or some dwelling, you first of all see on the comfort in the building. So what type of communications are there in the building, so from what materials was constructed this building, so maybe the year of construction of this building and so on. So for our, just when we talk about ourselves, first of all we need to know, so will be it healthy for us, so what type of bearing construction materials are applied, so is it reinforcement or just the bricks, or if it breaks maybe it will be healthy leaf inside and so on, right? So when we talk about each of self, of course we try to think about health and comfort. Let's think about all of us during design. So will be it healthy to live in your building if you are a designer, if you are architect of the building? So how people will sense them inside that building? So if they will walk inside the building, will be for them comfortable or not? And so only after that you can answer the question if it will be your building, if you will live inside that building or walk inside that building. Will you apply this type of material? Will you apply this type of construction system? Or maybe you will change your decision. So you need to answer this question firstly, when you just try to make some design of the buildings. And only after that, you will try to apply the right answer and you find the right answer. Next, minimize strain, local utility infrastructure, improve overall quality of the life. Okay, next. Third part, material used to bring construction. Actually, in this part, we can describe all of the materials which are applied during the design of green buildings. It is only part, and I can say that the most popular part of the materials. Maybe there are the more popular materials are in the world, but I just tried to show you some interesting type of materials which can be applied during the design of the sustainable buildings and energy efficiency buildings. So first of all, we need to understand that there are renewable resources like forests, yes, and we need to use some materials which can be reused, like old plumbing, doors, old windows, glassing materials, concrete and steel during your design. It's all in your hand. Just write in the paper, we can use recyclable materials during this construction. So there are no special requirements to use a new type of materials which will produced in the traditional methodics. Just we can reuse the old steel and create the new building. So write in your project that you can apply. And if you will do it, it will be first step for green buildings. Wool bricks. So in traditional methodics, we all know how we produce the bricks. But in the same time, there can be applied another ways of producing bricks by using, for example, wool. So, and it's a natural polymer material, yes? And so when it will be added to the clay, which is the main component of the brick, it can really increase the strength of this material, more than 30%. So how it can help us? It can reduce the thickness of the wall. For example, if the wall will be bearing, because the strength of this wall is higher than traditional materials. And so it, of course, will reduce the number of bricks, and in general, it will reduce the cost. And of course, will be again step to create some eco-friendly building, resistant to cold and wet climate. Fly ash. So fly ash, it's a terminology which can be accepted by you during designs like bricks or blocks for construction. So where can we find the fly ash? Fly ash is a product which can be found during the burning of the coal in the furnaces. So it's a waste product which exists after when the coal is burned. So if you will gather, so you, I mean like designers, like researchers, maybe person who included into finding something like making some invitation. So if you will apply the fly ash and add it to the traditional methodics of create the monolithic blocks, masonry blocks and so on, you will increase the stress, so will reduce the corrosion of the blocks and reinforcement, and also the higher strength again of the just blocks, for example, bricks, actually it will again save some energy, save some cost for construction, and will next step for eco-friendly design. Sustainable concrete. So sustainable concrete, it's a definition of non-traditional concrete when we use some wood chips or slag during production of the concrete. Actually, accepting the slag during production can really help to the concrete how it can do it. First of all, by reducing the emission during production the concrete mass. So the carbon dioxide will reduce. And again, so if you know during production the concrete mass, there are a really huge number, as I told you, the waste, so emission of carbon dioxide. And so the wood chips and slag can reduce the number of this emission. Next natural material, adobe, mud bricks or samar. So this terminology was popular many years ago, and still nowadays it can be used for our buildings. But it became nowadays not so popular. So many years ago, the samana or walls, samana housing was very popular for countryside, for the villages and so on. So many buildings still are nowadays are constructed from the samana. And we can use it because it's a natural material. So natural material like soil blocks, it can be really commonly used during construction, like non-bearing construction, because it's really reduces the heating in the winter and creates a good climate inside the building during summer. Also, last type of maybe achievements in the finishing, like finishing materials, eco-surface. So it can be produced from the rubber recycle. So rubber, as you know, nowadays the number of vehicles or machinery, automobiles are increased. And so increasing the automobiles says us that we use more and more rubbers. And so if we'll reuse these rubbers in the construction with the construction aims and purposes, actually we can create something like this. So this surfaces will made from the resin, and this resin will be really weather resistant, so will show the good air quality because there are will be no emissions, and it can be used like in combination with the titles, and so separated from the titles. And actually, there can be find many colors, like you see on the picture. Solar titles. So we know that solar panels is a very popular direction of creating the non-traditional electricity. Yes, so by using the solar panels, we produce the electricity for the building. So solar panels, it's a right applying method for design of the green buildings, for suitable buildings, energy buildings. But in the same time, if we'll use it in combination with the tiles, so there will be no reason to accept the protection for our roof, because our roofing will consist of solar titles. And in the same time, they will protect us from the natural, from the snow, from rain and so on. And in the same time, it will produce the energy from the sun. Paper insulation. So to recycle the, for example, papers, newspapers, can be applied for the methodics of make some insulation for the building. So as you know, there are various types of insulation, and without insulation we can design our building. And so if you will use the paper insulation like a foam, and you can fill the walls with this chemical foam. Of course, it will also be good solution for creating the green building. Glazed windows. So there are various types of the windows, and double glazed windows, triple glazed windows. It just means so where we constructed our building. So according to the outside temperatures. So if the outside temperature is higher in the minuses, so in the winter, I mean, actually we need to apply energy efficiency windows, which will not lose any part of our heat during the winter time. And of course, if there will have the shading covering, so shading covering outside part, so it will not penetrate the heat from the summertime, and also there will be no sunshines goes through this window in the winter time. So you will less spend the resources for the cooling in the summertime if you will use something like this. Next, material bamboo. So bamboo can be used during the reinforcement of the brick construction. So you know, during masonry construction we use the traditional steel, vertical and the horizontal reinforcement to strengthen our traditional walls, to strengthen our masonry. So that using bamboo can really help us to use less armature, use less reinforcement during constructions the same structures. And the last part, it's advantages and disadvantages. So there are many types of advantages of creating the green buildings. The most popular of them is environmental benefits, economical benefits, health and safety benefits, and the community benefits. So during our lesson we spent time for discussion of each of these type of benefits, and will not stop on each of these points. Just we need to know that the merits or advantages of creating, of design on the energy efficiency buildings is more than their demerits, so disadvantages. So demerits, initial cost is higher, so I told you that initial cost will be higher, but during the operational time we will spend less cost. And of course, during some time that cost which will spend us on the beginning will come back to us like the safety is money. Availability of materials, sometimes it's difficult to find right materials in the various of the regions, but actually we need apply such materials which will answer the question eco-friendly material. Need more time to construct and need skilled workers. And two main questions for you, just what about main advantages of the buildings and main disadvantages of the buildings?
Recycling of the materials.
For advantages we can say that you can use recyclable materials. Okay. For disadvantages, higher cost, initial, let's talk initial higher cost of the buildings, okay.
And higher qualifications of the workers.
Is it disadvantages or disadvantages? Okay.
Green building use recyclable energy.
Use recyclable energy.
Yes.
So maybe renewable energy. Maybe not recyclable. Recyclable is for materials, and it's use renewable energy like sun energy, wind energy. Yes. So earth energy, for example, for heating pipelines. Okay. What else?
Ecological friendly.
Ecological friendly. So it's a healthy for human. First of all, it's advantages.
This is a
Green building that
For health, so we discussed, yes, for health, actually, yes. Comfortable for living, for using. So if we'll design building in this technology, it will be very comfortable live walk inside the buildings, right?
Helps to prevent the greenhouse effect.
Oh, greenhouse effect. So it's a big problem. So we discussed to reduce the emission, reduce the carbon dioxide will help us to solve the problem with greenhouse effect, which nowadays is one of the important problems for all our world. Right? Okay. So additional information can be found by you if you're using these references. And if you have no questions, thank you very much for your attention.